Or there. Thank you. There we go. Good morning. Eva's got to close Facebook because that's a huge, crazy distraction. 1 second, everybody. Your patience is appreciated. Everything's closed. There. Hi, we are live. Good morning and welcome to day 2 of From Hell to Happiness. I hope you watched or caught some of the videos yesterday from day 1. Day 1 was an amazing day. Eva started off with a few technical glitches, but we managed to work those out, and the rest of the day went pretty smooth, in my opinion. Some amazing women shared some incredible stories. So day 2, we are starting off day 2 with Erin. Where do you live, Erin? I'm sorry, where do you live?
Ramsey, Minnesota.
Minnesota. So we're starting the day off with Erin this morning. Thank you, Erin, thank you for volunteering to do this, and thank you for sharing your story with us. Erin's story, me and Erin were just chatting a little bit before we came live, and her story, your stories of trauma just kind of like string together. Like doesn't seem like it's just one, it's like a continuous trauma thing. And it's pretty like, oh, how many times did I say, oh my God, Erin, I'm so sorry. Like, it's pretty traumatic. So you know what, without further ado, we're just going to get right to it. Thank you again, Erin, for being here with us. So Erin is sharing a story of broken childhood and tormented as an adult. And she gave me a little quick rundown as to exactly what it was. So Erin, your earliest memory, if you will, like what was your childhood like? Did you have a happy childhood? Do you have any happy memories at all? Take us back to that.
My childhood was, I'd say, kind of typical for the American family in the beginning. My parents were divorced when I was 5. And that's when things kind of started to shift. It was a very volatile divorce. I remember some of my earliest memories. I remember the fighting, the physical fighting, the yelling, the name calling. All of those things are very vivid in my memory. And then from there, once they got divorced, of course, there were 2 separate households. And unfortunately, that's where the story of my abuse kind of begins.
Okay.
The live-in babysitter's son actually sexually molested me from the time I was 5 and 6 years old. And that's kind of where my story of abuse started. So it actually happened in my home. And at that age, at first, I didn't tell anybody.
Right.
So
And how old was he?
I believe he was like 7 or 8 years old, and I was 5 and 6.
Wow. And he was your babysitter?
He was the babysitter's son, the live-in
Oh, right.
babysitter's son.
Oh, okay.
So they lived with us. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. So you didn't tell anybody, and do you think anybody probably wouldn't have believed you anyway? I'm thinking, right?
Well, by the time I did tell someone, which was a couple years later, maybe 3 or 4 years later, actually, I don't think they did believe me because they didn't do anything, and it was kind of just brushed aside.
And do you remember because you were 6 at that time, can you still remember what that felt like as a young adult, young woman now?
I apologize.
Don't even. That's okay. I'm happy it's your dogs and not mine. So, do you remember how you felt at that time? Do you remember your feelings?
I remember knowing that it was wrong. I remember being scared that something worse was going to happen. And I also remember being scared to tell anybody because I remember he told me if I told anybody, I'd be in trouble.
Right, of course.
Give me one. Can I
Yeah,
just
go do your
1
thing.
second? Let me just get her to
Absolutely.
stop.
I already saw her dog, and her dog is freaking cute. So
Oh,
when was the next, so after that, did it happen continuously? Did it happen? Did it happen again with somebody else? Like carry us through now, moving
yes.
forward.
So, around that same time, and I'm not exactly sure of exact age on this one because I think I've blocked it out of my memory. But around that same time, I was also sexually abused by an uncle while being babysat at their house.
Wow.
And I don't know how long that went on. I know that it was at least at least an incident happened at least twice that I have vivid in my memory.
Wow.
And that one I was terrified to tell anyone because this was a family member. And I was told that they wouldn't believe me anyway.
Right. And do you remember how old you were at that for that one?
I don't. It was somewhere between the ages of 3 and 6. That's all I know.
Wow, that's crazy. So do you actually still have did you have a relationship with this uncle, like as a, a happy family, and like what was the dynamics like?
I do. And actually I did want to touch on that. I have forgiven that uncle. I've not said it out loud to him. We've never discussed it, but um that uncle found God and turned his life around, and I got a close relationship with God, and I was able to find forgiveness in my heart and know that back then he was just a very sick individual and now he's a different person.
Right. That's actually really important. Forgiveness is really important.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that you share freely your relationship with God. And this isn't, we're not going to talk about God. I totally get that. Not everybody believes in God, but I think forgiveness is the key. Whether you believe in God or not, whether you believe in the universe, the higher spirit, the Santa Claus, the great pumpkin, it doesn't really matter. I think forgiveness is key in doing any kind of healing from any kind of trauma from your past. That's great. So you were telling me now. So take us forward a little bit more. You had another incident.
So that kind of, well, fast forward through my childhood, there was a lot of emotional abuse, verbal abuse. My dad was actually a narcissist,
Mm,
and so it was very painful and very abusive. Um, and then grades 7 through 11, I was bullied in in school, to the point where I would come home and write in my diary or tell my mom or tell other people that I wanted to kill myself, and I hated myself because of it. Um, so I didn't have a ton of friends. I made friends easily, but because of all my trauma and everything I went through, I was kind of an awkward person to be around,
right.
and that was hard for me. And so when I became an adult, um, also real quick, I come from a family of recovering addicts and alcoholics. So I do want to bring that up too because that came into play as well. When I became an adult, I I kind of I was doing anything I could to fit in, and I just wanted people to like me. And so I was going out a lot, going out dancing and drinking a lot. And when I was 21, I was date raped. I
Oh,
was
Jesus.
I was at a bar and someone put GHB in my drink, and I was passed out and escorted out of the bar by the bouncers into this person's car. They said they knew me. They said they would take me home and take care of me. And um, I was completely passed out. And I woke up the next morning not knowing who this person was, where I was.
Oh no.
And it was the most humiliating degrading experience, even worse than my childhood abuse, because I felt like I was an adult and I should have been able to do something to protect myself,
Right. That's
and
horrifying.
I couldn't. Yeah.
Wow. So did you press charges against this person?
I tried to press charges. The county attorney came back and said that there just wasn't enough evidence because he was saying it was consensual.
Oh my God. Every
Um,
woman in the world right now is screaming, I'm sure of it.
yes,
Oh
yes, it was.
man.
That was almost worse than the rape itself. Having someone come to you and say, "No, we're not going to press charges because they're saying it's consensual."
Because,
That
oh
was
my
like
God.
that was a slap in the face. And for women out there who are raped and who have to go through that experience and then relive it all over again to tell people and then not be able to go forward with the charges is horrible.
Can't even imagine. Can't even begin to imagine. That is crazy. Holy crap. So tell us a little. So now how was, I just want to get into your teenage, young adult, moving into your 20s. So you have this string of sexual abuse, which is horrifying, but you have a string of it. So how did you, like, as a young adult, you knew it was all wrong. How did you feel, like, your self-love, your self-worth, your, like, how did you feel? Like, did you feel like you were just a piece of a body that people were to abuse? Like, how did you feel?
Um, Honestly, the biggest feeling that comes to mind was I felt lost. Like I didn't fit in anywhere. I didn't know who I was or what my purpose was or why this was happening to me.
Right.
And that was that was the hardest feeling because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. You know, there's no manual that says if this happens to you, this is how you get through it. So
Right.
it's kind of like a touch and go situation where you're learning as you go. And when you're dealing with things that are so traumatic,
Right. And I
it,
guess you didn't really have anybody to talk to. Like, who do you even talk to about stuff like that that would believe you or even know how to help you?
no. And the sad part is when I brought up the rape to some people, I was getting responses like, well, what were you wearing? And
Of course.
how much did you drink? And well, weren't you at the bar twice that week? Why were you there again? Like everything was turned around, like somehow I should have prevented it. And that's what I started to believe. I started to believe it was my fault because I should have done something to prevent it. I shouldn't have drank. I shouldn't have been at the bar. And those are the beliefs that started getting ingrained into my brain.
Wow. We're supposed to believe that though. Oh, look what you were wearing. Well, you were asking for it. Like, I mean, why was your skirt so tight? Why? So we're still supposed to be running around in sweatsuits and jogging pants for the rest of our lives or in turtlenecks, right? In order to
Right?
like not be assaulted. Yeah, that's so pathetic. That story is so pathetic. Well, what were you wearing? Shut up. What was I wearing? Clothes,
Yeah.
like seriously. Yeah, that is so degrading. That right there. So I guess
Hmm.
at that point you had nobody to talk to.
Yep.
Nobody understands you. No, everybody thinks it's your fault. Nobody really believes you. So you're alone with all this trauma and nobody to understand, nobody who will understand you that you could actually share it with. So let's move forward. And how did you deal with and handle all this trauma that you suffered?
So, after the rape, I actually started going to a counselor at the suggestion of the rape counselor in the hospital.
Good.
And so, in the beginning, I was really kind of thinking that it was a waste of time and I was just going to go and say as little as possible and get out of there. But over time, I discovered that therapy was the best thing possible for me.
Good.
Um, now I've been in years of therapy and I'm a totally different person, and it has turned my life around.
Really? I'm glad to hear that. That's good. So was part of your healing journey, we're just going to go right into the healing journey now. So as part of your healing journey, or most of your healing journey, through therapy, or did you have other tools that helped you heal from all the trauma that you suffered?
So I want to reverse just a little bit if
Sure.
I can.
Of
I
course.
want to talk about a couple other things that happened because they kind of explain how I got onto my healing journey.
Okay, sure. Please do.
So, the rape was the last thing. That was around age 21. Then when I was 32, one of my cousins was actually killed very traumatically, um, and unexpectedly. He was 26 years old. Um, that that was kind of my turning point when I realized I kind of had come to the conclusion that the world was just a bad place and that these bad
Sure.
things are just going to keep happening to me. Um, then I did get married, and I was with my ex-husband for almost 10 years. We were together with a year apart. But then 4.5 months after we got married, he decided that he didn't love me anymore and he wanted a divorce.
Oh my God. What?
Yeah.
So
And
you're together for 10 years and you finally get married. And then once you go have all the big celebrations, he was like, yeah, I'm kind of done. Is that what the hell?
yes, and I was like, you couldn't have figured that out before we spent $15,000 on this wedding.
Oh my God.
And so he actually ended up getting remarried less than a year after our divorce was final. So that tells you what was going on there. Um,
Wow. Wow.
that
But to play that game for all that time, Erin, and then decide, oh, by the way, I changed my mind. What the hell? I'm so sorry.
I will say this on his behalf. I will say that probably the last 5 years that we were together, I was a very unhealthy person. I will
Okay.
I will own up to that. His part, the cheating, which I'm assuming happened, that he has to own, but I will own up the part that I was very messed up in the head. I was unhealthy. But anyway, so that at the time, I thought that was the worst possible thing that could have ever happened to me. My depression uh got really, really bad. And actually after the rape, I was diagnosed with PTSD.
I'm sure.
And so that was triggered as well. And so I kind of went into this spiral where I decided I didn't care anymore. And if people were going to think things about me, I was going to go out drinking every night. I was going to sleep with whoever I wanted. I was going to do whatever I wanted. I was going to eat whatever I wanted. I didn't care anymore. And that got pretty bad. Um, and and I don't know what clicked in my head, but I started to turn my life back around again. I was actually going to work full time. I was going to school full time. Um, things were going great. And then one of the worst days of my life happened on December 7th of 2013, a day before his 31st birthday. My little brother, who I was very close with, was killed in a snorkeling accident in Puerto Rico.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yes, it I thought my life was over. I saw him every day because I nannied for his kids, and we just had a really close relationship at the time, and losing him was like I thought my life was over. And my depression got so bad that I had to be hospitalized because I was suicidal.
Wow.
Um,
I'm
I
so
started,
sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much. I started counseling again. And then I decided to go to a grief share group at the church where we had my brother's funeral. And at this time, I had lost all of my faith. I did not believe anymore. At first I hated God. I absolutely hated God.
Sure.
And then I stopped believing. I was just like, there is no God, because if there was a God, this wouldn't have happened.
Of course.
And so I went to this grief share group, and I was very honest with them from the beginning. I was like, this is where I'm at. I don't believe anything anymore. So I don't know why I'm here, but I will sit and listen. That's all I can give you. And after the first couple weeks, I don't know why it clicked so hard with me, or well, I do now because God put it there.
Of
But
course.
we were watching one of the videos, and it said, even if you knew the reason why it happened, it wouldn't change the outcome. And for me, that was it. That's what I needed to hear, because I was so stuck on the whys and the what ifs and the coulda,
Yeah.
shoulda, wouldas, that I didn't stop to think that was just making me sicker. It wasn't helping me.
Right.
And so that turned my life around, and I found God again. And I don't want to talk too much about it, because I know for some people that's a hot topic,
Sure.
but it is a huge part of my life and how I recovered from all of my trauma.
Actually, it's a huge part of my life too. And I just want to touch upon the fact that I feel that there's so much strength and courage in you that I don't want to forget to mention, because anybody who's going through trauma, like the death of your brother and all the other trauma, a lot of people just shut down and don't seek counseling and don't get help. And I applaud you for actually taking the step that so many people are afraid to do. You took the step to get help, and I love that. So many people don't do, oh, it's not going to work. I don't need help. They come up with a bunch of excuses as to why they don't want help. They can't get help. They don't need help. And you were courageous enough to actually take the step, get help, and like, look how it transformed you. Like, I'm so proud of you for doing that, because so many people don't. And I hope people can get that from this if they can get anything from this interview from you, I hope that they can get that, just no matter how shitty and how horrible things are, no matter what you've been through, gone through, just go and talk to somebody. That's so important, Erin. Thank you.
Yes,
I
yes,
love that. That's great.
yes,
So,
definitely.
yeah, so your healing journey, I guess, was through counseling. I guess it sounds like it started right after the loss of your brother. You started counseling, and it's just sort of snowballed from there.
Yes, definitely. And I have made such huge leaps and bounds. Even my counselor, who I've been with for years now, she tells me quite often, she's like, I just am so proud of how far you've come. And I look back, and I look at the person I was, and how much I depended on other people's um perceptions of me, I guess.
Sure.
How dependent I was on that, and how unhealthy that was for me. And now it doesn't matter to me what other people think about me, because I know that I'm a good person. I know that I am amazing. And if they can't see it, it's their loss.
I love that. That's so awesome. Good for you, Erin. Good for you. Um, so if you had to, we're gonna close this up a little bit. So if you had to share one piece of like gold, like a gold tip for anybody who's watching, who is suffering with trauma from their past, whether it be from sexual assault or from a tragic death of a loved one or anything like that. If you had to share one solid piece of advice or give one tool or tip, what would that be? What would be your final like go to?
Sure. I think my advice would be um, to forgive. And I want to expand on that, because you don't have to forgive the person who hurt you in a way that forces you to spend time with them. I want
Exactly.
people to understand that forgiveness is not forgetting. And if you are at a place right now in your life where you just can't forgive that person, all I ask and all I beg of you is please forgive yourself. Because for me, forgiving myself was a huge piece of that puzzle that I needed in order to get better.
Right. I love your story and I love how you're so like you just feel, and it's funny because I was talking to a girl last night. I'm like, your energy is so like amazing. Like I just feel such a calming, loving energy from you. So I just love your story and I love your healing. And I totally believe in forgiveness. I write about forgiveness and I preach forgiveness all the time. Like, just forgive them. You'll see. Like, trust me. And nobody, oh, I'm not going to forgive this person. They don't forgive, they don't deserve it. I'm like, no, they don't, but you do. And people don't get that. You're not forgiving John Doe for what John Doe did. You're forgiving him so that you can have some peace. And I wish more people would understand that. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. So thank you so much for an incredible story. Thank you for sharing your healing and your your journey to God. I love that too. And as much as people, we don't like to talk about God, but I love your journey to God and I love your journey to faith. And I think that's important um for people who are maybe even on the fence about that, Erin. If you're not, well, I don't know, but I'm sure I believe in God because of all the shitty things that happened. You're living proof that shitty things just happen and it's not about the why. There's so much, it's so much bigger than that. So thank you so much,
Thank
Erin, for your
Thank you for
time.
having me. And
Thank you.
I do want to say real quick too, because it kind of, you know, everything seemed really horrible. I do want to point out throughout all of this, I have had a mother who has been a solid foundation in my life and who has been through enough trauma in her own life that, I mean, she is amazing and I get a lot of my strength from her.
I love that. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you so much, Erin. I hope that anybody watching Erin's story can get a little bit of inspiration, motivation from her, understand forgiveness and trauma and all that stuff. I hope that your story helps at least one person who's
Me too.
watching today. So thank you so much, Erin. I hope you have a lovely day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.